Today we are looking at character formatting in Microsoft Word. Let us begin. Alright, so character formatting in Microsoft Word. What exactly is character formatting?
Blank. Character formatting is the altering of the way text appears in Microsoft Word.
Right, so in Microsoft Word, you can change the way your text looks, right? And yes, we are visually impaired and we're not able to see at all or see very little of the text that is in Microsoft Word, but we can still use our screen readers and get information as to how to change the way our text looks and to make our documents look more presentable. And that is what we're going to be learning today. Now, remember that you can always visit the website at blindaccessibilitytips.com to read this lesson and other lessons in text there on the website as you wish. All right, so let us dig in. Okay, so we're going to be looking at three ways to do character formatting. Firstly, we're going to look at the way of keystrokes. There are some keystrokes that you can use to perform some common text formatting actions in Microsoft Word, right? However, firstly, before taking any formatting action, you must first select the text that you want this formatting to be done on. So for me, I want it to be done to my heading, which is in the very first line. I can just use up arrow a few times to get up there, but I'm choosing to use the keystroke Control Home, which will allow me to get to the very first line, very first position. So I'm going to do that now, Control Home.
Character formatting in Word.
And it repeats what is in the line. Okay, now I'm going to choose to use the keystroke Control Shift down arrow to select this line, which is kind of like a paragraph.
Character formatting in Word selected.
Now, if you do not understand how to select, how to use the different keystrokes to select, I have done a video on reading keys and selecting. I will drop the link in the description. You can go and look for it. Okay, so I have my text selected. Now I can do any formatting to this text that I want. The first keystroke we're going to look at is to bold. B for bold. So we're going to use Control B.
Bold on.
And it says bold on. Now it's important for you to note that these keystrokes are actually toggle keystrokes, which means if you press them again, the action will go off. So let's try that. Pressing Control B again,
Bold off.
right? And it says off, but I want it on, so I'm gonna press it back,
Bold on.
right? Bold on. Let us leave it there. Now, the other keystroke that we can use is Control I, which would allow us to italicize our text, right? Which means putting the text in italics, or some persons say italics, which really means that your text looks kind of slant, tilted, yeah, slant, right? And we kind of use it like when you want to emphasize a word or some phrase in your document, you can put that set of words in italics. All right, now the keystroke to do that is Control I. Let us try that.
Italic on.
And it says italic on. The other keystroke you can use is Control U, which allows you to put a single underline under your text. Let us do that now. Control U,
Underline on.
and it says underline on. All right, so those three common keystrokes, those three common formatting actions can be performed with three keystrokes: Control B for bold, Control I for italics, and Control U for underline. Now, the second way we're going to look at performing character formatting on our text in Microsoft Word is via the font dialog box. Now, there are about three different ways that you can open the font dialog box. You can open it via the keystroke Control D, D as in dog, but it opens font. Or you can use the context menu, which we usually open with our applications key, or you can actually go into the menu ribbons, right? And you can actually find the option to open the font dialog box. We're going to look at two ways of opening font dialog box right now, via the context menu and then the keystroke. All right, so let's press applications key to open the context menu.
Cut cut. Control plus X. Remove the selection and put it on the clipboard so you can paste it somewhere.
All right, so cut is the first option that is displayed in the context menu. We're going to go down until we hear font.
Copy, copy. Font. Font. Control plus D. Customize your text using advanced font. And
Right, that's the option for font, and it actually tells you that Control plus D is the keystroke for it. I'm just going to press Enter to open it.
font dialog, font color, underline color.
And it opens the font dialog box. All right, let us escape this.
Document one word preview.
Now let's try using the keystroke to open the same font dialog box. So using Control D to open font dialog.
Font dialog, font color, underline color. Affects this is the body theme font. The current document theme defines which font will be used.
Right. Okay. So upon opening the font dialog box, remember that in dialog boxes that there are different controls that you can tap to. But the first control or section that you're placed in as soon as you open font dialog box is the area that allows you to change the kind of font that you want on your text, right? Of course, you can down arrow through here to change. So let me down arrow and see.
Plus headings. Plus headings.
Plus headings is like a style, but let's go past this. Down arrow.
Agency FB.
Agency. Algerian. Right. If you notice, these are fonts that begin with the letter A, right? That's because these fonts are listed alphabetically. And let me tell you that there are several fonts. So if you want a font that begins with the letter T, you'd be using the down arrow for a very long time to find those that begin with T. What you can do, however, is use first letter navigation to get to those fonts that begin with T quicker. So let me use T to jump.
T. Selection removed.
And it says selection removed, but if you begin to down arrow, you will realize that you're now within the area of the T fonts. So I'm pressing down arrow.
Tahoma. Tahoma selected.
Tahoma. Say I want Times New Roman. I will keep down arrowing until I hear Times New Roman.
Tempest Sense ITC. Times New Roman.
And there it is, Times New Roman. All right. Okay, so now that we have selected the kind of font we want, we can now continue to move on through the other controls of the dialog box, which means that we have to press the Tab key to jump to a different control or a different section.
Font style. Edit Alt plus Y selected bold italic.
And the other section is entitled Font Style. And as you can hear, if you heard, it said bold italic. That's because, of course, remember that outside of the dialog box, we had used the keystrokes Control B to bold our text, and we had also used Control I to italicize our text. So upon coming inside the font dialog box, it recognizes that we had put both bold and italics on our text already. But you can actually change this. You could up arrow and see
Bold. Bold selected.
that one is just to bold the text alone.
Italic. Italic selected.
That would allow you to just put the text on italics alone.
Regular. Regular selected.
And this says regular, which would mean that it's neither bolded nor italicized, right? But I want both. So I'm going to down arrow back to bold italics.
Italic. Bold. Bold italic. Bold italic selected.
Good. And it says bold italic selected. Fine. Once I down arrow and I'm fine with the selection, I can tab away to a different control.
Size. Edit Alt plus S selected 11.
And now we're at size and it says 11. Okay, well, it's a heading that we have out here. So we kind of want our heading to be a little bigger than the rest of our body text. So you can down arrow in this section to increase the size of your text, and up arrow would have decreased it, right? But I'm going to down arrow to say 14.
12. 14.
All right, 14. I'm going to leave that there because I'm fine with that. And I'm going to tab away to a different control.
Font dialog. Font color. Underline color. Affects this is a true type font.
This is a section on color, and it's already automatically on. It's going to say automatic, which means that it's the default color, which of course the default color is black. And I'm going to leave it there. I really don't like to mess around with the colors, like to get sighted help with that. But if you want to use this area, you could have pressed enter, and then you could have used your arrow keys to change the kind of colors on your text. All right. So I'm going to tab to a different control now.
Underline style. Combo box single Alt plus U.
And now we're at the section for underline style, and it's automatically on the option which says single underline. And that is because, of course, when we were outside of the front dialog box, we had used the keystroke Control U, which had placed a single underline under our text, right? So that's why it's there. But now that we're in this section of the front dialog box, you can actually use your down arrow or up arrow to see that there are actually varying types of underline styles that you can choose. So let us hear just a few. Down arrow.
Underline style. Combo box. None.
None. So you could have chosen none.
Words only.
Words only. Now I like to explain this one. Words only means that the underline will be placed only under the words of the text that you have selected, right? So single underline, when you use the keystroke Control U, it gives you a single underline, which means that everything, including the words and spaces that you have selected, will be underlined. However, with this option which says words only, only the words will be underlined. The spaces will be left open. All right. Let us down arrow and hear other options.
Single.
That single, that is the one that we were on. Down arrow.
Double.
Double. You could put a double underline under the text.
Thick.
Thick. So it can be a thicker underline.
Dotted.
Dotted.
Dotted heavy.
Dotted heavy, meaning it's heavier dots.
Dash.
Dashes.
Dashed heavy.
And dashed heavy. So, and there are quite a few others if you were to continue down. But I'm going to go right back up to my single underline, okay?
Dash. Dotted heavy. Dotted. Thick. Double. Single. Underline.
All right, now that I'm back on my single underline, I'm just going to tab to another control.
Underline color. Automatic. Button.
And this says underline color, and it's on automatic. You can actually change the color of your underline as well. And it says automatic because it's automatically black. That's the default. But yes, again, if you wanted to use this, you could have entered on this section and used your arrow keys. Use your arrow keys to change the color of the underline that you want. But for me, I'm going to tab to the next control.
Strike through checkbox not checked. Alt plus K.
And this says strike through. And if you notice, it also said checkbox not checked. So for this particular option, you don't down arrow to change. You'd have to either check the checkbox or leave it unchecked. Now, to check the checkbox or uncheck it, you would have to use this space bar. So let me try that. I'm going to use a space bar.
Space. Checked.
And it says checked, which means that if I were to leave it like this, a strike through line would be placed in my text that I have selected. But I don't want that, so I'm going to press back the space bar to uncheck this option.
Space. Not checked.
And it says not checked. All right. Now, yeah, we can tab through and we will hear several other controls, right? And you can use your checkbox, your space bar to check or uncheck checkboxes, or you can use your arrow keys to change different options, right? But for me, I am done. But just for you to know that there are several other options you can change in here, I am just going to tab to my OK button and close out of this. I'm going to tab to OK.
Double strike. Superscript. Subscript. Checkbox. Small cap. All caps. Check. Hidden check. Set as default. Text effect. OK button.
And I'm going to enter on this.
Document one word preview. Microsoft Word document edit multi-line selected character formatting in Word.
Good. And it repeats the fact that character formatting in Word, the heading, is still selected. And yes, so just for you to note, we entered on the OK button within the front dialog box, and that caused the box to be closed. And all of the text options that we had selected, all of the text formatting options that we had selected within the box would have been applied here to this text that was previously selected. All right. So all of what we chose, the Times New Roman, the bold italics, the underline, the size, all of what we chose in the box would have been applied here to our text. That's it. Okay, now let's look at the third way of performing character formatting in Microsoft Word for visually impaired persons. The third way is through the menu. Of course, we know that to perform any action in Microsoft Word, the option to do it must be found in the menu ribbon somewhere, right? And doing character formatting is no different. We can find the options to change varying things on our text right in the menu ribbons. All right. So how do we open our menu ribbons? As usual, the Alt key.
Ribbon tabs, tab control expanded. Home tab selected Alt, page 2 of 11.
And it's already on home, which is, by the way, the one that we want. If it wasn't on home, of course, we would have to left or right arrow to find home. And then, now that it's on home, we are going to use the tab key to go through the options within home until we begin to hear actions that we can use to change the way our text looks. So I'm going to tab through.
Home grouping, clipboard grouping, paste split button,
That's
collapse
paste,
cut button,
cut,
copy button,
copy.
format painter toggle button, office clipboard, font edit Alt, H, FF selected Times New Roman.
Right, this is the first option, and it says font. And if you hear, it's already on Times New Roman, because, of course, within the font dialog box that we were in before, we had selected the font Times New Roman. So it is recognized up here in the menu that it's already on Times New Roman. But if you wanted to change this, you could have easily have entered on it and used your arrow keys to change the option, right? But let me tab to here, another option that we can change.
Font size edit Alt, H, FS selected 14.
Font size, and again it says 14 because we had selected 14 in font dialog box. Let me tab again.
Home grouping, font grouping, grow font button, increase font size.
You can grow the font with this one.
Shrink font button,
Shrink the size of the font.
change case, collapse,
Change case. So there are many change case means, of course, between capital letters or common letters. There are many options up here that you can change within the menu ribbons. And of course, how we did it, pressed Alt, left or right arrow to home. Upon hearing home, then you begin to tab through until you begin to hear different actions that you can perform. Either one of those actions that you would like to do, you'd have to press enter on it and then use your arrow keys to change the options there and then press enter. But for me, I'm just going to escape out of this menu.
Microsoft Word document.
Okay. All right, one last thing before we end this video. How does a visually impaired person know what kind of formatting is on the text in front of them? Of course, a sighted person can just look and see if the text is bolded or if it has been italicized or if there's an underline running across underneath it, right? But how does a blind person know this? We have to use the keystroke, insert F. So I'm just going to press that once now and listen. Insert F.
Style normal Times New Roman 14 PT default color bold italic underlined align left line spacing 1.1 lines.
So you just heard that there are different formatting on the text that it read out all in one. If you are quick enough, you may hear some of it. I heard the Times New Roman and the size 14 and so on. However, if you would like to hear it a little slower in a list that you can go through by yourself, you can actually use the keystroke insert F twice quickly, which means you're going to hold down the insert and press F twice quickly.
Formatting. Style normal Times New Roman 14 PT default color bold italic underlined align left line spacing 1.1 lines.
Okay, and if you notice, it's initially said formatting, which means it's actually bringing up a little box like a virtual viewer in front of you, and then it read off all the thing, comes straight down, which means that it actually is at the bottom of the list. So let me see, I'm going to down arrow.
Line spacing 1.1 lines.
Line spacing, right, down arrow again.
Line spacing 1.1 lines.
Right, if you notice, it's not going any further down. That's because this is the last item in the list. But if we were to go up, we would hear the other formatting actions. So let me see, up arrow.
Align left.
Aligned left, because of course we hadn't centered or anything our text, so it's still aligned to the left. We'll talk about that kind of formatting in another video. Up arrow.
Underlined.
Underlined, remember that we had applied underline, so it's telling you right here that it's underlined. Up arrow again.
Italic.
Italics, because we have put our text in italics. Up arrow.
Bold.
Bold, of course we did. Bold our text. Up arrow.
Default color.
And it says default color because we hadn't changed the color. Of course, the default color is black. Up arrow.
14 PT.
14 pt, 14 point. That is the size that we had selected for our text. Yes, up arrow.
Times New Roman.
Times New Roman. That is the font we had selected. Up arrow.
Style normal.
Style normal.
Style normal.
And that's the top, right? Style normal because we hadn't changed the general style. But that is how a blind person can know what kind of formatting is on the text. Insert F would just read when you press insert F once, the screen reader will simply read out everything to you, all the formatting that's on the text. However, if you were to press insert F twice, you would get this virtual viewer, which is kind of like is a box with the listing of all the formatting, and you can use your up arrow or down arrow to go through the list and listen to the formatting actions on your text as you wish. And we are done. So we looked at 3 ways to do character formatting in Microsoft Word with visually impaired persons. You can use keystrokes, Control B for bold, Control I for italics, Control U for underline. We also looked at using the font dialog box. You can use Control D to open the font dialog box, and you can also use your context menu, which you can press the applications key and it opens the context menu. Down arrow, you would hear font and enter on it. That would open the font dialog box, which within the font dialog box you can tap to different controls and change the controls there to change the kinds of formatting you want. The third way we looked at was using the menu ribbons. Of course, you would press Alt, left or right arrow to home, and tab to any font option that you would like to change, and press enter and use your arrow keys or so on to change the options. That is it for this lesson. Remember that you can always check our website at blindaccessibilitytips.com to view this lesson and other lessons in text. You can also find downloadables there that you can purchase. All right, thanks for watching. Look out for the other video.